we present The Horn of the Hunter, a radio ballad featuring arguments for and against the ban on hunting with hounds.
The echoing horn sounds well in the morn and calls the brave sportsmen away. The cry of the hounds with pleasure rebounds and bravely enlightens the day, and bravely enlightens the day.
I've sat on a horse and hounds are involved. You understand what God created a horse for, is to hunt with a pack of hounds.
I mean, I've made such fantastic friends over the years, and it's a way of life. My whole life centres around hunting, really, and all my friends hunt, and all my social life, really, virtually stems from hunting.
I do it because it gives me a chance to watch one animal species doing what comes naturally to it in pursuit of another natural animal species. And I just love watching one animal pit its wits against another.
Hunting foxes with dogs in England and Wales is now illegal. Police have been out in numbers to prevent confrontations with anti-hunt campaigners.
Farewell to the scarlet dogs, thundering through woods. Farewell to the sharp sting of fear. Farewell to the fox hunt, and I'm saying good, and I'm raising my voice in a cheer.
The important thing about fox hunting is its ceremonial nature. It's the fact that people dress up for it, that they wear particular equestrian gear, that there are particular forms of address, there is music, there's ritual, there's etiquette, there are rules of engagement, signals that this is a highly ritualistic event.
Farewell to tradition, if that's what it is, though it's feeling quite feudal from here. Farewell to the blood from a fox sound soft kiss, and I'm raising my voice in a cheer.
There are enormous numbers of jobs associated with hunting. If we start in the kennels, for example, there's a kennel huntsman. Hounds have to be looked after. If we look at the horses, a huge industry depends on hunt horses. There's all the leather work, the saddlery, farriers, blacksmiths depend on hunt horses. Vets depend on hunt horses.
To be honest, I don't think if your job depends on the chasing of a wild animal, the death of a wild animal, I've got no sympathy for you. You shouldn't have a job that relies on that in the first place. You deserve to lose your job.
We're outside the pub. We've got about 50 people on horses and probably about 200 people on foot, and they're all walking around milling about, talking to each other, and I'm stood here next to the huntsman, and the hounds are all round us, all round our feet.
The boys and girls are dressed to kill, gallop to dale, climb to hill, take the chase and that's the thrill. Oh, here we go hunting.
Elizabeth I, and I think even Henry II, all maintained packs of hounds in this area and used to come hunting in this area. So, hunting is a link with the past.
On the hills, I feel it incredibly strongly. Of events and of people and things, we'll go back, I don't know, a couple of hundred years and stuff. And if you're up on the top of the hills above Saddleworth, and the fog's coming down or the wind's blowing, and you can't see anything 20th or 21st century. All you can see is the same hillside that John Andrews in the 1800s used to hunt, the same hills that Thomas Kay used to hunt. It's absolutely timeless. The sense of history can be quite something.
Misty morning gather round, jacketed red and mounted brown, a lusty horn to hand to sound. Oh, here we go hunting. The
hounds that we keep, about 140 hounds. We count them in couples, in pairs. There's 70 couples of hounds at the kennels, and they're looked after there by a professional huntsman and a whipper-in, a kennelman, a countryman whose job, as well as helping with the hound, is sort of building fences and making sure that we can get about in the country on a hunting day. So those people are all actually employed by the hunt.
The whippers in and the park in view, lashed in couples wet with dew, making voice like good hounds do. Oh, here we go a-hunting.
Well, that's when the adrenaline starts, when you hear them go and they start to speak and go, and then you know then, knock your hat on tight as you're off, and because you don't know what you're going to come across the next field. It might be a 6-foot edge or it might be a 3-foot post and rails, but you've got to get the other side of it. Well, that is the main thrill. And if you don't have a run, that is the nature of hunting the natural foxes. Some days you don't get a run at all if there's no foxes about, or if you've got a fox, sometimes you get up and only go 2 fields and go to ground.
Horse and rider, dog and man, catch the scent on fallow land. There's 2 miles on the morning sun, on a red-brown face is shining.
I learnt to ride, and a friend took me hunting, and I bought a horse so I could go hunting because I had such a great time. And the people, they have to have something about them and be quite extroverts when they hunt, and they're all good fun. And I'd be really sad not to go on with it. It's just a way of life.
I'm Penny Brown. I'm president of the OBH North Pony Club, and I've hunted for over 40 seasons. I encourage all my members to come out hunting. I think it's a great way for them to see the countryside, and also it helps them to get a great balance with their ponies, and they get a great knowledge of riding across country on different terrains, jumping all sorts of obstacles, and also they make a great friendship out here in the hunting field.
The Berkeley family had hounds since the 16th century, and hunting as we know it originates from around that time. There are records of them catching foxes in Berkeley Square in London, so it's something that's gone on for a great length of time.
My grandfather started a pack of beagles in 1905. It's unique in that we are the only pack of beagles who have been in the same family for 100 years, 3 generations now.
Forget all the other issues. It's about cruelty. There's no place for it in today's day and age. That's just totally relegated to the history books. Keep your tradition, lose the cruelty. Just let us lose the death of an animal at the end of it. It's just not necessary.
Farewell to the morning when mist cools your face, and England of cricket, warm beer, iron forks and big flat caps, all know their place, and I'm raising my voice in a cheer. You're chasing the past, chaps, not chasing a fox. You're chasing a country that's gone. They've altered the windows and changed all the locks. You were riding a land that's moved on.
Well, it's a way of life, isn't it, in the country? Something to do on the weekend, to go hunting. We weren't interested in football, and that's what we did. It's what we've been brought up with. When the fox is running and the hounds are speaking, you give him mouth. It's a marvellous thing. It's like going to a band practice, listening to the band play, because every hound's different voice, and you're listening, and it makes your heart go, your blood run thin.
My eyes, he's a winder, yon labourer said, and he's been past here 10 minutes quite. His tag it were white and his coat it were red, by thou'll not catch bold Reynolds tonight. And it's, hey lad, thou munna jump there, it's 7 foot high very near. There's a digit far side, most tremendously wide, but he's jumped it, by guy, jumped it clear.
You go on the fell and you just draw on with hounds and they cast in, and then all of a sudden one hound will put the fox off, and then they all go together and they can hunt it 4 miles, 5 miles, it can go to ground, they'll bolt it, they go again, and if they get away like they do, you don't kill them all. The best foxes gets away and, well, they catch the other ones, the poorly ones, and the best foxes keeps going.
Now the footpaths grow small and there's many a fall, and the number has thinned since a find. And this brave host of huntsmen, they pray for the end, but they're getting most sadly behind. But the motto is sit down and ride, expecting whatever might be tide, to be able to say on that glorious day, I was there when the gallant fox died.
If you don't respect the fox, it's the way it's died going, isn't it? Because you don't know what he's going to do next, do you? They'll go to the ground, they're rolling them up middin, go in a farmyard, a farm building, they'll do anything. I've seen them go across a reservoir. They cross a river and they go in a pack of shape and they stop at middle at shape and they jump on top of a wall and it'll backtrack. They'll do anything to those hounds, anything in the power. He's living for his life, isn't he? He could have been hunted 10 times, couldn't he, in his life? He's survived all these years, hasn't he? He's cunning as a fox, isn't it?
See yonder he goes, I can tell by the crows that are circling and wheeling above him. And the time is now nigh when this good fox must die, but we don't want to kill him, we love him. See the fox and the hounds in one field, he'll fight to the death, ere he'll yield. Oh, what is the yell of bold Reynolds' death knell, and the fate of the rover is sealed.
I've lived up here all my life, and I was getting up one morning at 7 o'clock and I drew the curtains and a fella down in the field there had some hens and he'd about 100 pullets and he'd let them out. The foxes jumped at the top of the wall and it had one in its mouth, and I went to see him at night to tell him he'd had the fox, and when he went to count there were 40 dead. He'd killed 40 in about quarter of an hour. They'll take hens, they'll lambs. In lambing field, they'll stop there all day when one's lambing, won't they? Then when it's lambed, it just sneaks up and it's off with the lamb. If you go in a hen hut and kill one hen and go away, it'd be lovely. But he has to kill everything. He'll just wipe them out.
In past years, it would only have been the wealthy who hunted because they were the only ones that could afford horses.
I've read about it and seen it and heard my grandfather talking about when it was mostly lords or sirs or well-to-do people that did hunt. That's how it started off. But not today, and hasn't been for a number of years. You know, anybody's welcome if they've got a horse and they pay the subscription. They can hunt with us. There's all sorts of people come hunting with us.
You might not be rich, but I bet you're not poor. When you're on horseback, you're flying. You're leaving real life locked behind stable doors. When you're on horseback, you're free.
The hat, they're about £350 at the moment. This is my hat. It's got black velvet on it and it's silk lined. Coats, these are about £1,000. Boots, leather boots, probably about the same, £1,200, £1,000, something like that.
A black velvet hard hat, a waistcoat, a whip. When you're on horseback, you're flying. We'll bring on that old tops on saddleback whip. When you're on horseback, you're free.
I wore black most of my life, but when I was a master, I automatically went into a red coat.
The scarlet livery isn't just to kind of display a group of toffs or whatever you want to call it. The reason for the scarlet livery is that when hunting, those are the followers, can actually see the huntsman or the master or the whipper in because of the scarlet coat.
Comfortable underwear is a must because you don't want to have your knickers fracturing. And then a collarless shirt because we wear what we term a hunt tie or a stock. Now a stock has several purposes. It does help to support your neck if you're lucky enough to have a fall. It does help to stop the rain going down the back of your neck, but also it can be used as a sling if you need to do that. It can be used as a lead for a hound. It can be used as an extra rein if your reins break. So it is not just something posh that goes round your neck, it has function as well.
It's scarlet for the masters, the rest tweed and twill. When you're on horseback, you're flying. But you've earned your hunt buttons and wear them you will. 'Cause when you're on horseback, you're free. White shirt and stock and top coat for weather. Horse flesh and saddle soap, boots of good leather, the perfume of life that brings you all together. And when you're on horseback, you're free.
We wear either breeches or jodhpurs, which are usually quite tight-fitting. I'm sure everybody knows what those look like. And long hunting boots, boots that come up to the knee. And then a good warm jacket. One thing that people might not realise is when we are hunting, you generally carry a whip. It's not for any undue purpose. It's not to whip your hounds. It's not to whip your horse. The whip is used as a signal to hounds to keep away from the horse so that it doesn't get kicked. And again can be used as a lead or as a rein. And the hook on the end can be used to open and close gates. It is purely functional.
To gallop through clouds with the world at your feet. It's higher than high, it's sweeter than sweet. You're a man on the land, not a man on the street. When you're on horseback, you're free.
I got a woolen jacket which is yellow, which is the hunt I come from, Lord and Berkeley, which is probably another 200 years old. I got a stock, woolen breeches, leather boots and spurs. It probably hasn't changed for 300 years what we wear, but it's very practical.
We hunted beagles and they were purely hare hunting hounds. A normal pack for a day on the moorland around this area would be the classic 12.5 couple, 25. The first pack in this particular area, first reference is 1260, and it was the Penistone Hounds, and they came across with the Norman conquest, and that's the first known pack of hounds in this area.
Oh, the dew is falling, all nature is charm, and come me brave lads, and lanterns away in the search of a hare, for the prospects of fair, for the King George hunt is up and away. Hark to the hounds' melodious music, there's fitting, there's Orange, fair Lydia and Kay. Oh, Johnny Booker, he strains at the leash, thinking to bloody his muzzle today.
We start our way out and what's known as cast your hounds in order to find your hare, and then once you get her up on her feet and running, then the hound that is nearest to her when she gets onto her feet with what's known as open, sensitive mouth, and alert the rest of the pack, and the hare has far too much speed initially, and she's away out of sight, and then they what's known as come to their noses, and they start hunting her by scent.
Oh, the quest is on and the scent is found. Our hounds give voice and away they do fly. Elliot, our master, there is no one faster. He calls us on with his favourite cry. Through jump and hilly he races, but still we follow that hare, keeping him in our sight. Through Bank and Birdwood and Kingston and Kendrick, how that old hare must long for the night.
There's a melting bow in this, absolutely. You're going to get a lot of shakes.
The hare is an amazing one, and I have utmost respect for her. She's so crafty.
You're going to get a lot of
Some of
glare
the
off the
wiles that she
windscreen.
uses, doubles, and might run across a piece of ground, a farmer's field, run to the gateway, not go through it, but run all the way down the side of the wall, and then come back up to the gateway and then go through it. So she's laid a false trail for the hounds. Time and time again, hounds are fooled by this and delayed.
At last in Pogmore there comes a reckoning. Our champion hounds, they have her at bay. Orange and Bill, they advance with a will, just to let the hare know they require it to stay. Here's success to our hounds and huntsmen so noble. Our whipper in Goff holds his whip with great style to Clive, Keith, Morder and Ivor and all of the lads who pound and run many a mile.
The hare has always been referred to as a she, whether it's a male or a female, it matters not. Sometimes, as in some of the songs, she's referred to as Puss. It's just something that's been passed down over the years that hunting's been taking place.
And with Albion strong beer we will make the night merry. We'll drink a good health to George our King, with a song from Jack Smith. Where can we hear better? Our songs and our revels will make the beams ring. So now we trudge homeward all dusty and weary. Our heads and our hearts we have banished all care. 30 long miles we have strolled round over. There's no finer pastime like hunting the hare.
Camaraderie is wonderful. When we finish the day with the hounds, then in this particular area I have a great tradition of making our own entertainment. And it's not unusual for us to break into song when we've had a pint of beer and spend 2 or 3 hours in great glee and enjoying ourselves to the full.
Got Mr. Galloway, Pirate, Gambler, Puzzle, Vandal, Taboo, Bramble, Truman, Grimmer, Whisper, Gilmore, Poacher, Captain.
It's very important that the hounds operate as a pack. It's no good having individual hounds, just like in a football team it would be no good having one particular star and the other 10 players being fairly mediocre. And to communicate with each other, when they're on the scent, the hounds bark or speak, and the sort of collective, when the whole pack is in what we call full cry, when they're all speaking, again we call that hound music, and again to a hunting person that's a very magical sound, and I can think of nothing else really better than to wake up to the baying of hounds. And when hounds are happy, they very often sort of collectively howl, just as a pack of wolves would, and again we'd call that singing. And the music of the hound is something that's very precious to us and one of the thrills of hunting.
Railing, tickle, pleasure, trespass, dignity.
First to come the whipper in, and I'm bound to call you. Keeps the pack together as they gather up around you. Set them off, draw them in when their bloody day is through. Come the whipper in, be your glory
Willful, promise, tufter, gossip, and tumbler.
When you're young, you go with older members, older terrier men, and you learn different things and little tricks of the trade, you know. But you couldn't ask anyone, sort of give them a terrier and say, right, you'll be a terrier man.
Yeah, the plan today is we're going to be, as always, hunting within the terms of the legislation. The plan is today to hunt rabbits. If anyone sees any sort of game that hunt staff need to be aware of, be it anything we are allowed to hunt or anything we need to avoid, if that information can be passed on to Jack or any one of us in livery, so we can take appropriate evasive action if it's something that we're not allowed to hunt. So any information, please pass it on to hunt staff. If we can try and avoid, I know people get overexcited, I'm as guilty as the next man, but if we can ask today, no hollering, or pointing, or shouting, or anything like that. There's likely to be a lot of walkers up there today. We don't want to be upsetting people or disturbing anything. So hunting within the law, as I say, we'll take evasive action for anything that we shouldn't be hunting today. Bob Hurst's taking the cap, and Bob Walker, I think. So anyone who has a foot in the cap, Bob's around and Bob Walker outside.
Keep your nose cold, your tail up, be a credit to your father and your mother and your pack and all belonging to you.
When you're exercising hounds, particularly young hounds, you will fasten a young hound to an older hound so that the young hound hopefully learns good habits and not bad habits. And a couple is simply two collars linked by a short piece of chain.
Fuddler, Phyllis, Semsters, Bonnylads, Tidings, Trimbush, Kleinbank, Loris, Cannon, Junker, Mopsy, Sweetlips, Doxy, Ossin, Rapper, Maudlin, Yanady. They're strange names, aren't they?
There will be some that don't take to hunting. If a hound was what we call a babbler, it would speak where there wasn't a scent, then that would upset the rest of the pack. They would go to it thinking there was a scent there and then find there wasn't. So those would be culled.
Next to come the hounds man, and that I'm bound to call you. Know your pack by name and mark, their ways and wiles and natures. Pair the couples old and young, but pick the babblers too. Come the houndsman, come, be a good dog and true.
Conventional definition of a sport in most people's minds would be, two equal competitors with an equal chance at victory. Well, there's no equal chance of victory here. It's one fox against about 35 hounds and 60 riders and God knows how many supporters all against it. And if it's lucky, maybe a dozen hunt saboteurs trying their best to help it on its way. There's no equality about that sport at all. It's a blood sport to death.
What they want to do is spend their day chasing a wild animal. Now, if that's how you get your kicks, then I question your sanity in the first place.
The fox is a wily creature. It doesn't always need our help. It can do it on its own, but we can be a benefit to it, and that can be enough in itself. That could be enough to save its life.
Next to come the saboteur, and that I'm bound to call you. Risk a life to save a life with the strength of the law behind you. Rituals, traditions, all but killing feels to you. Come the saboteur, be a good dog and true. Be a good dog and true, ever true to your master. Run a hare, a fox as long as your good legs can carry you. Keep your nose cold, your tail up, be a credit to your father and your mother and your pack and all belonging to you.
I think they're hunting Tuesday and Thursday.
If we go back to very early literature in Europe, we find that the fox is always a problem. The fox is always the creature hanging round the farmyard, stealing poultry, attacking lambs. The fox has been a nuisance. He's never been an evil creature like the wolf, but he's a wily rogue, he's a robber, he's a poacher, he's a trickster. And we find in all the literature that farmers will come out to pursue foxes, to kill them. They will have a hue and cry through the village to kill foxes. And that was the relationship with foxes all the way up to the beginning of English fox hunting, really in the 18th century. The fox was just a bad creature in the countryside that you killed in any way possible. Interestingly, in the 18th century, when fox hunting really begins as a sport in England and the nobility and the aristocracy begin pursuing foxes, foxes have to be, as it were, ennobled, because we can't have gentlemen chasing vermin and pests around the countryside. And so the fox began to acquire a special new mythical character. And at the time, a new crime developed in the English countryside, which was vulpicide. Foxes in Latin are vulpes vulpes. And so vulpicide is the illegitimate murder of foxes. And once fox hunting begins in the 18th century, it was regarded as completely ungentlemanly, completely unacceptable to kill foxes in any other way. So the fox becomes a very special character. Yes, the hunt people say it must be controlled because it's a pest, but there is a great admiration for the fox.
I remember once with a load of pullets out in a night ark, and he got in and had a wheelbarrow full of dead ones in the morning. Wheelbarrow, he killed a lot. So that's what sort of a killer he is.
From being very young, it fascinated me are foxes. They're beautiful, they're crafty, they're very, very intelligent. Well, you can't say enough good about a fox, really. I've watched them run, I've watched them play, I've watched them just mope about. There's not a better sight, really, than a fox. And they do a marvellous job. They rat, they get rats, they gather carrion. They do get blamed for a lot more than what they do, but then, when they do start killing, that's the problem with them. They are forensic killers. They seem to just go totally bonkers. They'll kill a full coop of hens, dig under a night ark and the legs poking through. They pull the legs off the hens and make such a mess. This is why they get hunted.
There was Dido, Bendigo, gentry, he was there, oh, traveller, he never looked behind him. There was Countess, Rover, Bonny Lass and Jover, these were the hounds that could find him.
Unfortunately, you get the people who don't understand the country. They have the image of a fox with a jacket on in hunting pink, and that's what they think a fox is like. They don't know he's evil, they just think he's a puppet. And when they hear about hunting, they think it's this Basil Brush fella has been hunted, and they shouldn't be hunted.
Well, the first fox being old and his trials past at owning, he's made straight away for the cover. He's run up yon highest hill and along yon lowest rill, thinking that he'd find his freedom there forever.
We can't blame everybody. It's only a small minority who are anti-blood and anti-country and this and other. But when they gather together, they're a big mess and they cause a lot of trouble because they won't take the time to understand the countryside. They don't realise what they've got in our country, England. It's such a beautiful place. Farmers working hard to feed the country. They've got a reputation of country people have been cruel to livestock. You've only got to ask one question. If you're not well and you're afraid, you lose weight. You don't do. So it's obvious that the animals that we see in our fields and in our barns are fat and happy. Country people don't make the living out of being cruel and causing trouble. No, I don't know these funny ideas that they get out at towns. I don't know.
There was Dido, Bendigo, gentry, he was there, oh, traveller, he never looked behind him. There was Countess, Rover, Bonny Lass and Jover, these were the hounds that could find him.
Mostly young and old foxes will make mistakes like going across a river or getting themselves into a dead end. The young fox not knowing what he's doing and the old fox because he's knackered. It's mostly the young and the old which will try to get away in a hurry. And the song Dido, our first fox being very young made straight away for the river. A hound jumped in after him, I forgot which hound it was. And Traveller it was. Traveller destroyed his life forever. But that was a young fox.
Now the next fox being young and his trials just beginning, He's made straight away for the river. Well, the foxy has jumped in, but the hounds jumped after him. It was Traveller, destroyed his life forever.
A good dog fox can't half kill lambs. We had one here. He came for years. He was a big fella. And they finally shot him at Slathwaite. There was some black-faced sheep at the time, and the black-faced ewe, she had 2 lambs with her. And I went to her in the morning, she'd won, and she was in the corner of a field. And the field corner was black, where she had the lambs at the back of it, trying to protect them from the fox. He'd taken one of her lambs and he'd bitten the other badly in the neck. That lamb survived. He grew and his neck was always on one side, but the fang hole in the neck of the lamb was you could put your little finger into the hole, so his fangs were fairly big. I don't know what he did weigh, that fox, when he was got, but he must have been a fair fella. But he reigned a reign of terror around here for, as far as lambing time was concerned, and hens. I think he did 4 years. He managed to kill, was it 7 of your sister's lambs in one field one night? He managed to kill 7, and it took 2 or 3, so that he must have killed 10 that night. And it was that year when he did all them that they killed him down towards Slathwaite. This is why they are hunted and they are persecuted, because they can cause absolute turmoil if they get to a flock of sheep, new lambers. They'll be there every night. They'll be there doing it there. They keep picking them up.
There was died out, then the dogs, until he was there. Oh, Traveller, he never looked behind him. There was Countess Rover, Bonnie Lass and Jover. These were the hounds that could find him.
These hounds probably will catch a fox a day. They go out 4 days a week, and during any given day they might see anything between 5 or 6 foxes. It's all about the management of the population, and it's certainly not about exterminating them. But where there are a lot of foxes, the farmers may ask us to sort of make sure that we catch more than in an area where there aren't so many. And indeed, part of the control is non-lethal. The fact that the hounds come to an area and disturb the foxes and disperse them may be sufficient to reduce the damage they're doing in that area.
Let me tell you, hear my words, you judges and juries. I claim a voice like yours that I might be heard.
Foxes are always he's, even if it's a vixen. If you're chasing a hare, even though it might be Mr. Hare, it's always she. Don't ask me why, it's just one of our quaint traditions that has lived on.
Foxes are far more abundant now than they were years ago, because they can feed on rubbish tips, they can feed on road casualties. They have got a food source during the winter which allows their numbers to become abundant. So they're protected in a way which they never were years ago. The fox will therefore feed on ground nesting birds, they'll feed on lambs, they'll feed on a range of species, particularly ground nesting birds, which make it a predator. We have to control foxes. If we don't, then the population of many species will reduce.
Hello, Dum-Dum. I'm lost and pariah. Thief and outcast. There are few whose name can incense and divide like wine. Feel the smear upon the cheek. See the stain upon the snow. Hear the wailing cry of dying as the wailing hound does blow.
Fox hunting involves a pursuit of the fox, often for a long period, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And people will, of course, be concerned about fox welfare. But it does seem that the fox is not, as it were, hunted all the time. What will happen is the hounds attempt to find the scent of a fox. The fox might have long gone. At that point, those hounds are hunting the fox even though the fox might not even hear them, it might not be cognizant of them. However, hounds will slowly build up speed, get into contact with the fox, and one can see a fox flee. But what the fox seems to do is set up a flight distance, and then it calms down and it walks along. When it's really actively being pursued, when it thinks the hounds are too close, it appears to take evasive action. But certainly at the last few moments, that fox is being hunted fully. It is fleeing for its life. I can't comment what's going on in the fox's mind, but at that point, it is perhaps terrified. But that actual pursuit really, it seems to me, only lasts a few moments. People might object to it and have good reason for objecting to it, but it is not a long, involved pursuit. So when people say the fox was hunted for an hour, yes, it might have been, but for the first half hour, it could have been 10 miles away. It's the hounds trying to pick up on the scent. But it is in those last few moments that, if a fox is terrified, that's when it's terrified.
With fallen farm stock, I feed my young. My instincts tell me that to kill is but the way this must be done.
We have a great respect for the fox, and without hunting, he merely becomes, to many of the farmers and the land users in the land, he's seen as a pest.
Such retribution upon my head that my own children are cast before the hounds to be torn to shreds. Feel the smear upon the cheek, see the stain upon the snow, hear the wailing cry of dying as the wailing horn does.
I believe that it's the most humane way of actually culling these creatures. To shoot a fox, you have to be an extremely good, accurate marksman, and there are not many of those about. And if the fox is wounded, runs off, it becomes gangrenous. Or, I mean, if you've ever seen traps and animals kind of trapped or snared or baited, that's horrendous. So there's nothing kind about killing anything, but I would think that that's the kindest way to do it.
I know they think we're just bloodthirsty, but it's not that at all. And that's the last thing I think about. We like to catch a few foxes to keep them down, but if we don't, we don't. I wouldn't cry if we didn't catch one.
Well, I became a hunt saboteur and got involved in the sort of animal rights movement generally, because I don't think that anyone basically has a right to chase and ultimately kill a wild animal for sport. So because of that, I got into hunt sabotage to ultimately try and stop them from doing that. I can accept there's an awful lot of tradition involved, and I can accept that it's important for people to meet together, like-minded people. They want to go out, they want to socialise together, have a good ride across the country. But ultimately, that does not need to involve the death of an animal at the end of it.
A day needs facing in the dawn's grey light. A life needs saving if we get things right. Get ready for a battle, a struggle or a fight, if we're ever gonna save that foxhole, foxhole, foxhole. Get ready for a battle, a struggle or a fight, if we're ever gonna save that foxhole.
The simplest possible tactic that has been employed so effectively over the last 40 years, which was just simply to eliminate the scent of the fox itself. And we discovered that a diluted mixture of lemons and aniseed mixed with water and diluted into sort of garden spray bottles and sprayed over an area where you believe the fox had just run can have enough of a potent scent to totally mask the scent of that fox, leaving the hounds unable to chase, unable to pursue. That's been a fantastic tool.
Here, doggy, good doggy, what you gonna do? Come to your nose, boy, catch a fox or two. Aniseed and lemon gonna make a fool of you. You'll soon lose that scent, oh, scent, oh, scent, oh. while I see the lamb and gonna make a fool of you, you'll soon lose that scent.
They've all got the potential to be violent. I don't think there's any hunt that's been sabbed for any length of time that hasn't. But to my mind, I hardly expect any different. I mean, they go out there to kill, to take life. So does it really surprise you that they then wade in and attack people that oppose them? Of course not. It's the first thing that they do, because violence is what they do. Violence seems to be what they love. So, you know, if they see nothing wrong with harrying an animal and seeing it torn to shreds, they're not going to think twice about giving you a thump if you disagree with their viewpoint. Being hurt, being injured, and being sort of carried off to hospital once or twice is really nothing compared to the elation I have felt in stopping something from being terrorised to death.
They'll be killing in the fields, in the mist and the mud. Them bullies in the saddle want to taste some blood. Whoever's in the way bleeds just as good, and always just as red, oh, red, oh, red, oh. Whoever's in the way bleeds just as good, and always just as red, oh.
A fox that's just sort of put up quickly by hounds, brought down and killed, that's not a good day for them. A quick chase and a sudden death for that fox is not a lot of fun to them. So the fox could be chased for fields, it could be chased for, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, to exhaustion until it can't actually physically run any further, and then brought down by a pack of hounds and ultimately torn to bits. The Countryside Alliance and the hunting fraternity, they try and wrap all these issues up in, it's about class issues, it's about we don't want to see toffs on horseback, it's about this. No, it's not. It's about cruelty.
Did you ever see cubs bull squealing from the ground, thrown to be shredded by a screaming pack of hounds? There's glasses of blood dipped, bumper passed around. Let's drink to the name of sport, oh, sport, oh, sport, oh. There's glasses of blood dipped, bumper passed around. Let's drink to the name of sport, oh.
No one in their right mind should think it's acceptable to physically attack someone just on the basis of their beliefs. But unfortunately, in my time out as a hunt sab, I've seen it all too many times, and I'm sure we won't see the end of it because we're still going to be required to go out and keep an eye on the hunts. And now the ban's in, yeah, the battle's won, but they're going to be even less happy to see us when we're out.
My eyes have seen the gory, my limbs have borne the scars. Friends have even fallen in the misty morning wars. But as long as lasts the hunt, long will live the saboteurs, to honour that gift of life, oh, life, oh, life, oh. As long as lasts the hunt, long will live the saboteurs, to honour that gift of life, oh.
And when I was made aware of the fact that there were people actually going out to do something to actually stop it happening, to oppose it, it was a pretty clear choice for me. What a thing to do. I mean, what a more positive thing can you say as you come home one night and say, well, I actually saved something's life, or even I tried to save something's life.
It's just an ancient pursuit. There's a lot of artistry in it. It's a fascinating subject, is venery. Hare hunting is the purest form, and it's been denied us now. I find that very, very sad.
Hunting Act is effectively finished for my pack. I'll have to reduce the number of hounds I've got. I've already given away half of them to another pack. I will keep a few hounds for purely sentimental reasons, to retain the bloodlines, and I'll retain them a handful, effectively for sentimental reason. I'll exercise them, but they won't be hunting in the way they have been hunting.
Yeah, we wait to see, really. It's sort of very new ground for us all. Some hunts are probably going to carry on as normal and try and defy the ban, and others are going to toe the line.
A big house once stood on the hillside, thought it was the best in the land, and it said I can do what I like, I don't have to obey any rules and commands. Then that big house, he turned of a house by the river, the biggest and strongest of all. It had laws, it said, should be obeyed for the good of each house, whether big, whether small.
Fox hunting is obviously tied up in a huge political and legal wrangle at the moment, such that packs of hounds are not to be used to chase, pursue and kill foxes. What I notice in the countryside is that hunts are desperate to maintain the sense of community that's still involved. My claim would be as an anthropologist, if fox hunting completely disappears, there will be rural cultural impoverishment.
We will lose not only the breeding of hounds, we will lose the management of countryside in a traditional way. 300 packs of hounds, every part of the country effectively is hunted. You will also lose the camaraderie of people locally meeting together, socialising together, taking exercise together, raising money together. That will go, that structure will go. We'll ultimately all be the poorer for it.
But that house on the hill wouldn't listen. It said, don't tell me what to do. For centuries now, I've done things my way. I'm not gonna change that for you. But that house by the river insisted. Many other houses stood by its side. So the house on the hill stamped its foot and protested, as if that would force back the tide.
I would ask anyone, what's one of the most enjoyable things that you do? It might be going to a football match, it might be watching cricket, and then the government of the day suddenly takes it away from you. Put yourself in that scenario. What would you think if that happened? And that's happened to us.
Personally, I would think there's room for tolerance and understanding. We've had the inquiries into hunting and none of them really found any good reason for banning hunting outright. But hunting, I believe, has a place in the 21st century, and it's something I hope will return. It would be a tragedy, I believe, for the British countryside if it is something that fades away.
I think in the future, people will look upon this issue and they'll shake their heads in amazement that it was allowed to go on until the 21st century. They really won't be able to comprehend. I mean, it should have been banned by law before I was even born. It's insane to think that it can still have been allowed to carry on until just this year. But it was.
But those waves of the law kept on rolling. The waves of the law would not turn. So that house on the hill went home weeping with rage, ignoring the lesson to learn. And some say it's still up there just waiting for that house by the river to fall. For it thinks if it just bides its time and keeps scheming, it'll get its own way after all.
You know, the British population know that they don't want to support a sport that involves cruelty, and that's ultimately why the ban came in.
The motivation behind trying to stop us or trying to legislate us out of existence, I kind of understand it, but the legislation hasn't stopped anything. It hasn't stopped us taking hounds out, and it hasn't reduced any level of actual cruelty or actual pain or suffering. Any animals now that need to be kept on top of or managed or whatever are going to die in a much slower, much more painful way. It's not pleasant, it's not nice. With hunting, it's dead, it's not suffering, it's not caught in a snare, it's not lingering around with buckshot in its back. It's dead or it's scot-free, it's gone. There's no grey areas with hunting. I think that the people who think they've got one over on us have actually done a disservice to animal welfare.
As of today, hunting is banned. The law came into force at midnight.
The future, as far as our hunt is concerned, is trail hunting. The hounds following a false scent laid by man to as near simulate a hare as we can manage. I think we have lost more than we know, and I think the longer we go on, the more we will realise what we have lost. But I'm certain that as long as people are around loving hounds, there will be hunting of one form or another, simply because it is still part of our collective inheritance. Human beings have always hunted something, be it something for the pot, or as a sporting pastime, but hunting is in our genes, and there will be some form of hunting giving expression to that need for as long as man is on the planet.
It was hard to believe. It was only the first day we were out after the ban and we saw the hunts. We really did see a real change. The whole feel of hunting was different, and you knew straight away that what you were looking at would never be hunting as it was. So it was a very weird day. It was a day that took too long to come, but I honestly do think with a bit of tidying up along the way, this really is the end of hunting as we know it. It really is.
Farewell to the stirrup cup, farewell the thrill of tearing a fox like a shredder shreds bills. And look, there's a fox, and he's standing quite still. No, he's raising 2 fingers from top of that hill.
In the radio ballad The Horn of the Hunter, the songs were written by John Towns, Ian McMillan, Jez Lowe and Dave Burland. The programme was produced by John